Back in those days, my dad just said he was tired. I'm going to mix them all together. What the heck? I haven't got the strength anymore to make 3 different kinds of teas. And you mix them together and he drank it. It was on a Wednesday morning and he told us, and he wrote in his book that from the first sip, he felt better. And my dad drank a gallon a day, and in 6 weeks, he was in remission.
Hey gang, so today I'm interviewing Sir Raymond Winters. Sir Raymond Winters is the son of Sir Jason Winters, the originator, the discoverer, formulator, I don't know what word to use, of Jason Winters tea. Now, Jason Winters tea has become legendary because in 1977, Jason Winters was diagnosed with cancer and went all over the world trying to get well and did a lot of holistic and alternative therapies and eventually put a handful of herbs together in a tea and drank it, and his tumor started shrinking and eventually went away and his body healed. And so for 40 years, they have been sharing this tea, this herbal tea formula. And I read the book Killing Cancer that Jason wrote many years ago. And I'm going to let Sir Raymond fill in the blanks here, but it sold millions of copies back in the early 80s. And of course, since then. And so it's a big thrill for me. It's a thrill and a treat and an honor to talk to Sir Raymond Winters and to introduce you to him, to introduce you to the Jason Winters story. If you don't know it, I talk about it in my first book. Some of you might remember that from Cancer, but we're going to really go more into detail on the story because Raymond was a teenager when all this happened to his dad. So
absolutely.
Without further ado, Sir Raymond Winters, thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. I want you to know I have your book and I absolutely love it. I want to thank you for writing something this wonderful. And I want to thank you for helping people. That's what it's all about. That's what I've devoted my life to since my father passed away in 2004. It's people like you that are passing the torch and using all the new, savvy technology to really introduce cancer alternatives and a better lifestyle, healthy living to a whole new group of people. So thank you.
I appreciate that so much. That really means a lot. And it's interesting that Jason was diagnosed with cancer the year I was born.
Wow.
And he died the year I was diagnosed with cancer.
2004.
That's kind of weird.
Something.
I was diagnosed in basically in December 2003, but my holistic cancer journey started in January 2004.
And I'm so happy that your mom was on the tea and that she told you the story. And that's how it's been for us. We've been surviving. We're worldwide. We sell worldwide. In Japan alone, we have over 200,000 people that sell our tea, all through, mostly through word of mouth.
And most Americans have never heard of Jason Winters tea.
I know, isn't that sad?
I feel like I'm the loudest voice, the loudest proponent of Jason Winters tea, maybe that I know. I don't know anyone else who talks about it. And people who know my story know that my mom had this huge collection of health and wellness books. I mean, just hundreds of books because she was an avid reader and she was always buying books, from the bookstore, but also buying books from the health food store, yes. Right? So she had stacks and stacks and stacks of books that she bought at health food stores. And one of those, although she might have bought it at a traditional bookstore, who knows, but she had Killing Cancer, the Jason Winters story. So right. She had that book. And yeah, so it was one of the many books that she had that I went through when I was trying to educate myself and learn about how to heal holistically. So it's just cool, right? It's really cool to just, it feels.
Yeah. You know what, Chris, the interesting thing is that book has sold millions of copies. In China alone, they turned it into a comic book and they printed 10 million copies. Wow. It's unbelievable. And my father wrote that book when he was new to everything, when he survived, when the doctor tells you that, you have your phase 4, back in the old days, it was terminal. They didn't have phase 1, 2, 3. He was terminal. they told him to Dr. Dubater, I remember it like it was yesterday, hauled all of us kids into this little room and said, you know, your father is going to die. He's got terminal cancer. He's got 90 days. We're going to do 70 cobalt radiation treatments. We're going to try and save him, but probably he's going to die. And if it all works out, we're going to do a radical neck dissection and we'll remove his tongue, tonsils, part of his jawbone, and take his carotid artery out because there was a tumor wrapped around it, and replace the carotid artery with the artery from his thigh. And maybe he'll survive, but, you know, probably not. And
let me interrupt real quick. How old was he when he was diagnosed, and what was what type of cancer? He was 47.
Yeah.
And he had a big tumor on his neck.
Correct. With he had squamous cell infiltrating carcinoma with a primary tumor wrapped around the carotid artery and traces of cancer on tongue, tonsils, and jawbone.
And how old were you?
16.
Yeah.
And I will never want anyone else to go through that, but a lot of your viewers have, and you know, and the whole family has cancer. It's not just the mom or the dad or the sister; it's the whole family who goes through it. And back in the 70s, the technology wasn't the same as it is now. So my dad endured 70 cobalt radiation treatments on his neck and burned his face black. And he used to wear a scarf, I remember, to cover it up. And when he, at the end of that treatment, they said, you know, well, it didn't really help you. We're going to want to do the radical neck dissection. And my father said, no, I'm going to die all in one piece if I'm going to die. You're not going to cut me up. And so he said no. And in that time, he was researching natural remedies from all sorts of ancient texts, the Bible as well. And he had noticed it said 27 times in the Bible, use herbs for medicine. And he decided he would go on a worldwide search for the herbs. And he went to the American Southwest, which is funny because when he was a young man in the movies, he was an extra in Tucson and Old Tombstone, and they would make Western movies. So when all the Americans would have a coffee break, they would go have donuts and coffee, and all the Native Americans, they would gather in a group and they would cut down this bush and they would make a tea out of it. My father drank that tea and he said it tasted terrible. And he remembered all those years later when he was dying that tea was chaparral, one of the herbs that was in the tea.
Yeah.
And so he drank that and he hated it. But all those years later when he had cancer, he remembered. He went back there to the Santa Rita Hotel and where he was discovered as an extra. And he bought that. And he started to drink it. And it didn't really help him. Then he had remembered from an ancient text in Middle Eastern or Asian text that there was this herb called herbaline. So he flew over to Singapore and he found the lady that had it. And he started taking that, which was an extract actually. And that didn't help him either. So then he figured, oh, what the hell, I'm probably going to die. I'm doing the best I can. But, he had a very positive attitude. But sometimes you get down. You know what it's like when you're fighting a terminal illness. You have your ups and downs. And so he decided he would go home to England. And if he was going to die, that's where he was going to die, in England. And but he recalled that in the Bible it said use herbs for medicine. He actually called the head of the Church of England. And the guy actually answered the phone. And my father said, what herb do you think is mentioned in the Bible? And they said Indian sage and red clover. So my father got that as well and started drinking that. And it didn't help. So he was really tired. And back in the old days, you're not supposed to mix herbs together. They interact with each other, somewhat like medicine. We both know that a lot of the medicine you get today is naturally derived. It comes from herbs, right? They extract it and, synthesize it. They make it into something different. But anyway, back in those days, my dad just said he was tired. I'm going to mix them all together. What the heck? I haven't got the strength anymore to make 3 different kinds of teas. And he mixed them together and he drank it. It was on a Wednesday morning and he told us, and he wrote in his book that from the first sip, he felt better. And my dad drank a gallon a day, and in 6 weeks, he was in remission. He was fine and went back to Canada and started to give the tea away. And by this time, I joined the army, and I was back on leave, and there was a whole bunch of people outside our door. And to make a long story short, when I went away to the army, I thought I would never see my father again. I thought he was going to die, but he survived through his will. He had made up his mind he wasn't going to die. He was going to do whatever it takes to be successful, to survive, right? And it never occurred to him that, one, anyone wouldn't believe him, and it never occurred to him that no one would want to hear about it. So in Canada, they have the version of the FDA, and my dad was giving away this tea. And right around the holidays, Christmas time, there was a little girl supposed to die of leukemia. And her family had found the tea and heard about it because it was making a big stink, a big deal up there locally, you know. And so my dad gave them, the mom and dad, the tea, and the little girl drank it, and she survived. So they were so happy, she went into remission, that they went to the Toronto Star, big newspaper, gave the story to the Toronto Star. The next day, their version of FDA came and told my father, stop giving this tea away. Stop selling. You can take it, but don't try to sell it. Don't tell anyone about it. It's not a cure. There is no cure for cancer. And of course, my father said, of course, I don't make any claims for cancer. I drank this tea and I'm alive. That's the extent of it. You know, we don't make any claims. You know, you can't make claims for food, for tea or anything. The American FDA does not recognize any natural cure for cancer. And there's a whole story about that, right? But anyway, we thought, wow, my dad's alive. And I thought everyone's going to want to hear this wonderful news. And you could drink this tea and it could help you. We were so naive. We had no idea. My dad had to flee with my mom and my two brothers to the Bahamas, out of America, because he got death threats. This is like 1978. Anyway, eventually we moved from the Bahamas, my mom and dad, to the United States. And we played by the rules, you know. We didn't really make any claims. My father wrote his book that sold millions of copies. And a very famous guy who wrote Unlimited Power. What was his name? The guy who wrote that book.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. He came and stayed with my dad for 3 weeks. Because when Tony wasn't a star yet, it's probably 84 or somewhere around then. I don't know when it was he wrote his book, but I remember him staying with my dad and talking to my father. And if you look at Tony Robbins' book, Unlimited Power, my father wrote the foreword to that book. So you can go to the library right now and look it up. And Tony Robbins was fascinated with my father's ability to stay positive. Positive. His message is positive. You know, if someone were to ask me, is there a cure for cancer? There probably is one out there that the doctors have. I would say that Jason Winter's tea saved my father's life and hundreds of thousands of other people all over the world. But if you ask me, is Sir Jason Winter's tea a cure for cancer? I would have to say no. There is no recognized cure. We're not allowed to make health claims for it. But I provide the same. I've made my life's mission to carry on my father's story, to make sure that no one makes things up. There's a lot of people like to add. I don't want to add anything. His story is exactly as it happened to him. And the herbs we use are from the same company that my father got them from, the same sources, all this time. So that's what I devoted my life to. And on Friday, I go to Japan to talk to our people in Japan. We have people in Korea and Australia, New Zealand, and Philippines, all over Southeast Asia. And it's a wonderful business. It's a wonderful thing to be involved with. But if they ask me, you know, if we could save one life, if all of this just saved one person, it'll all be worth it. The whole thing. Everything that
and you've certainly done that.
Yeah.
No doubt. Because I know you have countless testimonials that have come to you over the years
We have
from
over
people consuming.
100,000 testimonials, which we use none of. We just say,
Right. Yeah, you can't use them. I get it.
no.
Well, and the thing is, this has never been studied. Jason Winters tea has never been studied in a clinical trial for cancer.
Actually, it has, Chris.
Oh,
It's
tell me
been
about it.
studied in a double-blind study in Japan in 2022 by two world-famous doctors. And that study is now on our website. Of course, we make no claims for it. I had nothing to do with them. They didn't ask me if they could study it. They just did.
That's
And
fantastic.
it affects myocardial DNA. I don't really understand it. I don't understand really how the universe works, but I know I'm here. So I really don't need to understand the technical aspects of why it would be beneficial, but I know it is. And I'm so happy.
Well, what I was going to say is that, that's really fascinating. I'm glad there's a study out now, and
It's
I'm looking
brand
forward
new,
to.
Chris. I didn't tell you about it. I just thought we put it on the website. We don't really advertise it.
Well, there's a number of studies done on the individual herbs that are in this tea formula, right? So there's a number of studies on red clover, on Indian sage leaf, on chaparral. And so what is known about these herbs is they do have anti-cancer benefits, immune boosting benefits, antimicrobial benefits, which is very important. And so it makes sense that when you combine even just all the herbs have benefit on their own, but when you combine them in certain applications, you get a synergy.
Absolutely. They say that the addition of the herbaline makes the other ingredients 27 times stronger. And I have to tell you, being in the business that we're in, helping people, the tea is beneficial. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't sell. And the thing about that is that we don't have a big slick ad campaign on TV. We don't do any of that. We've got customers that are customers like you are, like you. You use the tea, your mom used it. We've had people using it for 42 years, and it's incredible. And all I tell people is, you don't have to be sick to use the tea. You want to drink something good? Try it. Just try it. You'll love it. And, look at me, 63. And I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I mountain bike. I spent my whole life working out. I learned how to work out with my father. On Friday, I fly to Japan where we have a club, JW Cafe, where you can buy the tea, and a health club where you can work out. And I teach self-defense. I stay fit because it's my obligation to stay fit, my obligation to be healthy, not for any other reason than just for me. I choose to work out and navigate a war every day as to what I want to eat and what I will have. Right?
Well, it sounds like the tea is more popular or more well known overseas than it is in the United States.
Very popular worldwide. Yes, we have a lot. Yeah. And we concentrated on the countries that were open to that, open to the tea, open to natural things. Americans are just coming around to tea, the benefits of it. And the Native Americans have been using tea for 5,000 years. And I always like to tell this story. Doctors are wonderful people. They try. They're not allowed to do everything that they want to do. If you want to look at a recent indication of that, look at COVID-19. Some doctors wanted to try some stuff. They got in trouble. It's the same thing in the cancer world, right? So, back in the old days when there was a medicine man, he didn't have a boat or a Porsche. He didn't need any money for payments. He gave you something. If it didn't work, he wasn't the medicine man. That's how easy it was. That's how simple it was. And it's maybe naive to think, wouldn't it be nice if it was like that today? Wouldn't it be nice if, you could just drink something that cost $15 or $20 and it would help you rather than take medicine that sometimes doesn't work, right? I'm not saying don't take medicine. Everyone out there, do whatever the doctor says, okay? But instead of having a soda, maybe have some tea. Maybe sit down with your wife and kids and make Jason Winters tea and have a little chat about your day. Maybe make it like a social event. Back in the old days, when I first started, I was so committed. I was so anti-FDA, anti-establishment, anti-drug companies. Now that I'm older, I realize that you have to get along with them. There's a lot of good things that they do, and there's a lot of things that I don't like. But we have to work together. And I think that's what my father was trying to do as well, you know. But why I brought that up was in the 70s and 80s, 95% of the people that had used our products had cancer, Chris. Now it's about 50%. 50% don't want to get cancer and they just want to live a good life. So they drink the tea all the time. I drink the tea every day, every day of my life. I use distilled water. And I use reverse osmosis water sometimes when I'm away. I like the vitamin waters, I don't drink tap water. And personally, I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, but I don't do dairy and I don't get to eat bread and muffins and cake because I don't really like that. I want to try to live a good life and be as clean as I can, eat as clean as I can. And I want to spread the story of my father's life and his life-giving tea and his formulas to the world. And, if you see this and you go, well, that's interesting, great. Get on our website and have a look around. If you don't like it, that's up to you. Fine. The sun's still going to come up tomorrow. Everything is still going to be okay. All we can do as people that know about this is do our best to talk about it and tell people what it's all about and just give them that extra bit of information. Maybe they won't just roll over and die when the doctor says you're terminal. Maybe they'll fight. Maybe they'll look at you and have hope.
Well, there's some very powerful herbs in nature, and in American culture, Western culture, we're not getting these herbs into our bodies, right?
Correct.
They're not
Absolutely.
a part of our normal diet. The American diet is so abysmal. We are only eating 1 to 2 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So forget about the herbs. Like we're hardly even eating any produce. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And so herbal teas, I mean, I'm just a big fan of lots of herbs and herbal teas. And we love Jason Winters tea. We actually like to make it and ice it, make a big batch and drink it iced. And even my kids, when they were little, they called it Jason tea.
Absolutely. You know what? So did mine. And since we live in Nevada in the desert, we would make sun tea out of it. And which is you get a bunch of the tea bags or the loose tea, put it in a big jar, fill it with water, put it on the windowsill. And I have to tell you, Chris, the market is full of things that are wonderful and some things aren't wonderful. Some things are good, some things aren't. Jason Winters tea is unique in the world. We're the only one with the formula that my father formulated, and I've kept it exactly the same. And it's wonderful to walk down the street because I have on my license plate JWT, and people will honk at me and stop me at license. Say, I use that tea. I use that tea. It's wonderful. And we have, excuse me, people coming over from all over the world to Las Vegas. In the book I wrote about my father called What If, I naively put the address to the jiu-jitsu club that I belong to in the very first printing. That's out. We took that out. Because when the book started selling, people would just show up at the gym because the addresses, and they would want to talk to me. And I got in trouble by Sergio, by the instructor. So I had to remove that. But yeah, it's been a wonderful life so far, and I'm just getting going. And as are you, you're younger than me, and it's our obligation to try to help people. And Jason Winters tea is wonderful. It's sold worldwide in 20 countries and all over the world by the internet, and people love it. And it can actually help you feel better. It can actually make a difference in your life, and that's the thing when you're fighting cancer or something else and the doctors told you you're going to die, and you look at your wife and your kids and you think, wow, you probably did this, right? I know my dad did. And you think, I just don't want to die. I want to be here. I want to be here for my kids. I want to see my daughter graduate. I want to see all that. And when the medical establishment just tells you that you're going to die, and they'll try and help you. You need to be positive. You need more than that. You need help. You need to have a positive mental attitude, which is the hardest thing to do when you're sick. You have to push yourself. It's like when you're working out and you have a fight or you have a triathlon or you have something coming up and you don't want to do it and you're in the club every day and you're like, God, I hate this, I hate this. Well, eventually it'll pay off. And I think that's how people have to be proactive about their health. And Jason Winter's tea is fabulous. Now, there's so many stories I could tell you about people that have used it. And, should I tell one?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Love to hear
This
it.
is about a lady. She's 32 years old. And just like you, she called the office and she was talking to my daughter. And so I just said, I'll take the call. And she was 32. She had a tumor in her brain. And she had 3 little kids. And so she was having this big operation. They were doing chemo and radiation to try and shrink the tumor to make the operation less harder, less whatever the term is. So I told her, well, you can try the tea. I sent it to her for free because I felt sorry for her. That story gets me because I was there. And so I have a warehouse full of it. I just gave it away. So I sent it to her. So then she wants some more. So I send her some more. And then she calls me. She goes, Raymond, I went to the doctor. So the surgery was scheduled for a Friday. And her doctor, being a good doctor, this is about 3 months had gone by, being a good doctor, he decided to do another MRI or CAT scan to see how big the tumor was. And it had shrunk to about a third its normal size. So the operation was much less risky. And the doctor said to her, my God, this is a miracle. What have you done? She goes, I drank Jason Winter's tea. And she called me and she told me that. And we actually cried. I actually cried at my office because it was the emotion coming from her. I could feel it over the phone. And that made everything worthwhile. All the struggles, all the stuff that you go through when you run an international company, all the being attacked and all the hard to get the right herbs, and made everything seem right with the world, and she's still alive today. And that is absolutely wonderful. And her little kids they have a mom, and, she went through the surgery and it was much less restrictive than it was going to be. She came out absolutely fine. And if my father's tea had something to do with that, I think it did. And that's just wonderful. And I have a lot of stories like that. Just, over the 42 years we've sold the tea, we have a lot, but we do not use them. I do not profit off of a story like that. You just, I tell that to people when they ask me about it because I'm passionate about it, Chris. And
I can tell. Well, I am too. I love the tea. I love Jason's story. It's a phenomenal book. I mean, it's just really worth reading. Killing Cancer, the Jason Winter story. One question I think that folks are probably wondering is, Jason drank a gallon of tea a day. And that's a lot. That is a lot of liquid, right?
Yes.
In your experience, is there a minimum beneficial amount?
Well, my father drank a gallon a day because he invented it and he didn't know how much to drink.
Right.
So he didn't want to take any chances of the cancer coming back. So he drank that. You can drink
still eating food, right? He was eating. He wasn't just doing like a tea fast or a water fast, right? With just drinking tea.
He was eating food, all raw fruits and vegetables.
Right. So he got on the raw diet. That's important, folks.
Absolutely. And my father was 100% rigid with that raw diet. There's nothing, just everything was raw. Nothing was cooked. You can drink as little as 3 cups a day. You and me could have 3. I've had 7, 8. I drink a lot of it. But, in order to have benefit, I would say if we're healthy, a couple of cups, no problem. You'll see, you will feel better. You'll feel the difference, right? If you're fighting something, we always say to double up on it, but you could drink a gallon a day if you wanted to, but not necessary. A box of tea bags would probably last about a month, and our 5-ounce loose tea original blend would probably last about a month. If you're healthy, if you're sick, maybe 2 weeks. It depends on you. There's no set really dosage for it.
Well, the way I like to explain this too is when you're using food as medicine, you have to keep dosing.
Right.
Because when you drink a juice, or when you drink a tea, or when you eat a giant salad, or you eat an apple, there is a window of benefit, right? There is an amount of time after you ingest this that it's going to benefit your body. And that
Correct.
window may just be a few hours, right? There's a few hours. In some cases, for some molecules, maybe they linger and you get a benefit longer, and maybe it's a whole day. But generally, there's a short sort of few hour window of benefit. So if you're thinking about food that way and medicine that way, that means you have to continually dose, right? Continually
Absolutely.
drink juices, continually drink teas, continually eat, overdose on nutrition, eat a giant cancer fighting salad, for example. And so it makes sense to drink multiple cups of herbal teas and drink multiple juices. And it can be hard. I get it. Like, you can't drink a gallon of tea and 64 ounces of juice. It's too much, right? In one day.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, how much can I get in?
Day, maybe have some throughout the day, like a cup in the morning, a couple of cups for lunch, or maybe have, like, I'm lucky, like you probably are. I have a distilled water. I have a water machine and a hot water maker, which is always full of hot water, and I make the tea all day long and I drink it. When I'm away, I take the tea bags with me. I really like the loose tea, but difficult to make when you're traveling. So the tea bags are what I like to use, and those are wonderful. But you're right, though. It's difficult to do all those things. Sometimes you have to pick and choose. I like carrot juice. I like to have carrot juice every single day of my life. I have carrot juice, and sometimes I don't want to have the tea when I have carrot juice because I'm full. And so you mix it out throughout the day. And you really have to pick and choose how you're going to do it, depending on what's wrong with you. If you're healthy and you just want to maintain, you could do, if you really need it and you're fighting something, then you better stick to a plan that you make yourself. Good eating, keep away from negative people, keep away from anyone that smokes. Smoking will suck the vitamin C just right out of you. That's probably me old school talking, but there was a guy, famous doctor named Linus Pauling, who you know about probably, won the Nobel Prize twice.
Right? Definitely. My mom had some of his books.
Right. So did my dad.
Now I do.
Yeah. Me too. What did they do to him? They took away all of his funding when he proved that massive doses of vitamin C might fight cancer. So make sure you have vitamin C in your body, anyone's vitamin C, a good vitamin C. Which is really important, and stay away from people that are negative. You ever been in a room and you're all happy and that one dude walks in and he sucks the life right out of the room? I believe in things like that. Those, that kind of thing, you need to stay positive and happy. You can't wake up in the morning, singing. You probably could, but you can't be happy all the time. But you have to have a positive attitude that things are going to go good for you, that I'm going to survive and I'm going to have a good life and I deserve a good life. And you never want to go through that. What I went through is I've never been quite the same since I lost my dad. My father beat terminal cancer, but he died in 2004, December 12th. After him and I came back from Japan, he had a cold, and the doctor gave him two kinds of medicine that interfere with each other. I lost him through medical error, and there was probably over 350,000 medical errors every year that take people's lives. So you have to watch out for that too. But I've never been quite the same. I've never been truly happy. I've been half happy and half sad. Half happy. Oh yeah, my dad survived and I'm here and I have a wife and I have a baby. But I'm sad that my dad never got to see my daughter get married. And, and all I can tell people that have been through that have lost someone is, embrace it, because it's never going to go away. And once you realize that, try to remember them in a good, positive, happy way. Like I remember my dad. Like most people, when they lose someone, they get to forget about it because they go on with their life. I'm surrounded by pictures of my father He's on every tea,
Yeah.
everything that we sell.
His
All the
face is
tea
on
and
every box of tea and every packet of tea. Yeah, that
yeah.
is,
So when I walk into
it
the
is
office, there
interesting.
he is.
You know, I lost my, you don't know this, but I lost my dad in 2020.
I'm
He had
sorry to hear that.
Parkinson's, and it just, it had it for years, and he was 82, and he passed away in December. And, you know, but yeah, I don't see his face. It's not like his face is a part of my life and my
Your
business
daily
and the
life.
company. And yeah, so I can see how that really would be difficult. But hey, I'd love for you to talk about how your dad became a knight, how he was knighted.
Well, my father's tea became super famous in England, and the royal family has their own herbalist. The royal family is into herbs. And when King Charles was a prince, he met my father. My father who built a couple of hospitals together, one in Vancouver, Canada, and one in Bristol, in England. And the royal family has always been interested in alternative medicine, complementary medicine, herbs, right? We call them herbs. So herbs, but and so my father was working with Prince Charles, the Prince Charles Trust, and for my father's work with Prince Charles and his tea and his work in complementary medicine, he was knighted in Malta in 1984. And the Queen of England is the head of the order. Nelson Mandela was in the same order as my father. And so was the Pope that passed away. And it said, so what the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem are, back in the Crusades, these were a group of knights that would go onto the battlefield and they would aid and render assistance to people on both sides of the war. Um, that's now would be like the Red Cross. And in America, it would be like, I think you have the Red Cross in America, and in Britain, it's St. John's Ambulance. And they use the Red Cross. The same thing that I have on my logo. So my father was finally recognized for his work by the Knights of Malta. And now Prince Charles is the king, which I think is wonderful. And I'm very proud of my dad. He worked his whole life to get that. I received the knighthood because I'm his son, and I carried on his work. And I always thought, like most sons do with their dads, I was a giant disappointment to him. No matter what I did in the business, he was never happy. He never said, "Good job, Ray," or anything. But 6 months before he passed away, he recommended me to be a knight. And when he passed away, I informed the Order of St. John in Malta that my dad had died. And 6 months after that, about a year after my father passed away, they told me that he had nominated me and they accepted me. And I'm a knight commander, and my father was a Knight of Grace, the highest honor you can be in that order. And yeah, Nelson Mandela was in the order, so I'm in good company. So was my dad. I'm very proud to be in it, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to prove that I deserve it. And my father earned it by not, I always say that you can go two ways, right, in life. We all have that turn back moment, right? Where like, oh my God, it's so bad, I can't make it. I'm just going to give up. And there's no guarantee in life. But I promise you that if you give up, you won't succeed. And people like my father and you didn't give up. You guys had it in you somewhere. Somewhere in you said, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm not going to go. And because my father did that, he changed millions of lives all over the world. His tea has been a positive influence in the world. And he was knighted and he was recognized. And as an Englishman, to be a knight, that's a big deal. In America, it works good to get a reservation at a restaurant. But in the real world, overseas, it's a big deal. And
I'll have to use that when we call up to get reservation. This is Sir Christopher Wark would like a reservation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, The funny thing is, I was knighted, or I was recognized as a knight in 2004, maybe 2005. I think 2005. But I never went to Malta until 2012. And when I went there, I was knighted, but the same guy who came out of retirement that knighted my father knighted me. Man, it was wonderful.
Wow.
This old man whispered in my ear. He's probably 95 or something. He could barely understand him. He goes, "Your father's very proud of you." And I was trying to hold it together. I'm emotional, so I was trying to hold it together. Didn't want to cry, or it was a big deal. And we were eating on Marie Antoinette's china because they had that for some reason. They made a big deal about it. So I was trying not to break anything. And, he whispered that in my ear, and it's just wonderful. I knelt down, and he said, "Kneel, Raymond, arise, Sir Raymond." And it was wonderful, right? And I thought, wow, I don't really deserve this, right? I'm just his son. But I decided then I would work the rest of my life to help people and to make sure that, try my best to make sure that no one has to go through what we went through, what you went through, what my dad went through. And
Well,
what
I know
really,
you've worked really hard continuing that legacy. So
yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind that you do deserve that.
thank you.
Because if it wasn't for you and your family, I mean, his story would have died out, right? The tea would be off the market. No
Yeah,
one would know about it, right? And
no.
so the work continues, and I think that's just so admirable and awesome. And I'm a big fan. I'm a Jason Winters super fan.
You know
Okay.
something, Chris? That makes me really, really happy. I have to tell you, the Jason Winters tea is exploding throughout the world. Like in next year, we're opening up in Taiwan, and we're in China, we're in Korea. I go to all these places in Seoul. The same people that own the rights to sell our company own K-pop and own Korean soap opera. So I get to meet all those stars, and it's so funny. They're
That's
superstars,
wild.
but I don't know who they are. I'm not into K-pop, but I'm sure it's good, So I get to meet all those people, and we're all over, and I just get to travel and tell my father's story. And you can see when people stand up and they say, "I had cancer," or "I had this, I'm alive now." We never say cure, we always say remission, right? My dad remained in remission his whole life, and so these other people are in remission. But that's what makes it all worthwhile. In America, we are we're changing our way. We're going more for social media. We're going more for the new things, the technology that people are using to spread the word to a younger generation. Because you don't have to be old to be healthy. You need to start when you're 20. You need to start eating right when you're a kid. But you need to really start to look after yourself when you're in your 20s. And Jason Winters tea is a really good asset, a really good way to help you remain healthy.
Well, yeah, it's never too late to change what you eat. And it's so much easier to change your diet when you're healthy. It's harder when you're sick. Although when you're sick,
Absolutely.
you may have more motivation when you're sick, but you also may not feel like doing it. So you have that sort of dichotomy of
Right.
motivation and resistance. It's like when you're sick, but when you're healthy, it's sort of the opposite. You don't have a whole lot of motivation when
Because
you
you
are
think it's going to
young.
last forever.
Yeah, and you
I'm
feel
20.
fine.
And yeah.
Yep. Well, and obviously cancer struck me early, and so I had to change my whole life radically. And my suggestion for you folks that are listening is like, just get some Jason Winters tea, right? Order it, brew it up, try it hot, try it cold, iced. It's delicious. It just has this really delicious, sort of just very mild herbal tea flavor. We just love it. I mean, it's just very easy to drink. It's not, it's not strong. It's not pungent. It doesn't taste like dirt. It's good.
No,
It's
it tastes
really,
great. And
really.
Chris, I have something special
Mhm.
to offer your people. Anyone who wants to get on our website, which is sirjasonwinters.com, I have got an ebook, a brand new ebook of my father's life called Killing Cancer, the same one that you bought, but we have it online and they can download it for free. no charge.
Great. Perfect.
So
That's
anyone who
amazing.
wants to. So the website is sirjasonwinters.com. Maybe you can have a link on
Yep,
your
we'll link to
website.
it.
Or yeah, okay. And you know, I just want to say that a lot of people, not you, but a lot of people, they go through the fire, they get sick. And having cancer or having a disease of the immune system or disease of that nature didn't really happen overnight. Happens gradually from the way we live and the things that we're subjected to, the stress of everyday life, turning on the TV and seeing all the bad news, and then having people smoke and eating the wrong food because you're busy and you've got kids and you have time to whip through the drive-through at the fast food place. And these things, that's how you get cancer. When you get rid of it, or degenerative disease, don't go back to what got you there in the first place. A lot of people, they get healthy and they go back to what happened. They go back to their old life. You need to keep this new lifestyle. It has to be like, I'm a martial artist. I don't fight anymore in tournaments, but I'm a martial artist for the rest of my life. I'm going to practice my whole life. Just like every day, people always make fun of me when I have a Caesar salad or a salad for lunch, because they all order burgers and fries, and they're like, what do you want? What do you care where we go eat, Ray? You're just going to have a salad. And my grandbaby said the same thing to me. She's only 8 years old. We were talking about going out for dinner. She goes, what do you care, Poppy? You're just going to have a salad? And I thought, geez, she's right. I'm just going to have a salad because that's all I can have at a restaurant. That I don't eat meat, so I'm not going to have a big steak, right? And what do they offer? Shrimp Caesar salad? Okay, I'll have that.
Well,
Right?
yeah, I'm the same way. I always get vegetables, when I eat out, whether it's
Yeah,
salad or it's some cooked veggies. It's not hard. It's not hard to make healthy choices. Restaurants always have, there are always options in a decent restaurant. I mean, if you're going to
correct.
fast food place, then yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
But if you're going to a nice establishment, a sit down restaurant with a proper menu, there are always vegetable options and enough for you to get full and enjoy yourself. So I'm so glad we're on the same page on so many levels. And yeah, and thank you so much for giving away a copy, making the Killing Cancer, the Sir Jason Winters story book available to download on your website. That is amazing. And folks, go read it. I mean, it's just, that book gave me so much encouragement, like every cancer survivor book I've ever read, just gave me encouragement and hope. And it was exciting when I read it. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this guy, he healed. Like it's possible. And
it is.
I
And
say
it's
this all the
funny the way
time.
my dad wrote the book, not as a writer, just as a person, just telling what happened. And it's so real. And that's why I read it all the time. It keeps me close to him.
That's great. It's important to read survivor stories, read books by survivors, learn from them, because it's not just about what they did. There's always wisdom, right? That attitude, the
Absolutely.
perspective of a cancer survivor. There's wisdom there. And so, yeah, folks, go download that book, get the ebook at sirjasonwinters.com.
You can
Yeah.
read up all about it. And we have the Jason Winters tea available in many forms, in tablet form called the tribaline tablets. If you don't want to take tea, we have loose tea, we have peach, raspberry, cinnamon, all with the herbaline, all with the mixture in it. We have the regular formula tea. We have green tea with the herbal tea with my father's mixture in it. We have loose 5-ounce tea, 2.5 ounce or 70 gram, 150 gram tea for the metric system. Yeah, just have a look around. And anyone who wants to ask me anything, shoot me a email. There's a link there on our website, and I'll be more than happy to answer you. And, I want to thank you, Chris, for surviving, number one, and for having the gumption, not just to survive and be happy in your own life, but to try and help other people so they don't have to go through what you went through, because you know what you went through. I don't know everything you went through, but I've been through it with my dad. So I watched him. So it's people like you that are changing lives, and people like you that are on the front lines, getting people like me on and talking about it and other people and making sure that your viewers get to see this and they get to see and know that it's real. It can really help you. All you have to do is try, and look at you, healthy and handsome and fit, and what are you, 40 something? How old did you say you were?
I am 40 something, 46.
46. Well, you
Yeah.
look like you're in your 30s.
Thank you.
So, and you've had cancer, so go figure.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and the one thing about your dad's story that is so impressive to me too is, I mean, it's scary having a big giant tumor on your neck.
It was terrible.
I mean, that is scary. Mine was internal. I couldn't see it, right? And I had it taken out with surgery, and then it was a fight to prevent a recurrence. And so there's a whole nother level, I think, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually in healing when you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing this tumor every day, right?
When he had that, first it was soft and like I could see it on his neck, and he would say, push on it, it doesn't hurt. So we little kids, we'd like touch it, and then it got hard and it was like a rock, and then it started to hurt, and then he didn't want to go to the doctor, and of course, Canada has socialized medicine, so a little different than here. And of course, it's back in the 70s with all the old technology. And his biopsy operation was supposed to be 25 minutes. It ended up being 6.5 hours. He had a giant scar on his neck. And the whole thing was extremely traumatic, right? It was 40 years ago. I don't know. I was 17 or 16. So I don't know how long ago it was, but it seems like it was yesterday. And yeah, for him, everywhere he looked, he could see the tumor, everywhere. And he was always hoping it would just go away by itself, right? And that's the worst thing when you're afraid to go because in your mind, or you think I'm going to die, or it's the worst possible thing. Well, I'm glad that it was on the outside, because had it been on the inside like you, maybe he wouldn't have gone in time for them to even figure something is wrong so that he could do something about it. You don't have to do what, you're in charge of your own life. You're in charge. You can seek medical advice. You can listen to it. You don't have to take it. It's up to you. I would always take the medical advice, but I wouldn't use that as the only advice. I would never not use the tea. In my life, I will drink that till the day I die.
Well, the other thing too, worth mentioning too, that I think for some folks listening, having a tumor on the outside actually can be helpful because you can see it, right? You can see absolutely. It if it starts to shrink. You can feel it if it starts to get hard or soft. Like in some ways, yeah, that could be, as long as you don't let it freak you out.
Right.
You can, you'll see changes. You can observe changes immediately versus something on the inside. You have no idea if it's growing or shrinking.
Right. I know. And, for my father, it was always there. So it made him take action because it wasn't going away, And he spent his whole life surfing and in the ocean, and squamous infiltrating carcinoma. They said the primary spot was probably somewhere on his scalp or his skin that they never found. So they had, it had moved all over. It had metastasized, or it had moved about his body to all the spots where he had it. And, for him, all he could see was that one giant tumor. And I kept all the medical records. I kept everything. I have it all. So there was this wonderful magazine called the Healthview Newsletter that came out in 1978. They did a double issue on my father, and that's what made him a superstar back in the 80s, in the late 70s, early 80s in America. There wasn't a health food show that we could go to that he wasn't mobbed. We would sell out of the tea immediately. His books were selling. People like Barbara Streisand, Red Buttons, Fred McMurray, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Mike Tyson. All these people drank and used the tea. Mike Tyson was one of my dad's friends. Yeah, before he was a star, when he first fought Trevor Berbick, when he was working out here in Las Vegas, he met my dad. He drank the tea. And Yeah, it's
That's so
incredible.
cool.
A lot of people like
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
A lot of
amazing.
health conscious people, a lot of movie stars have used it. One of the things that my dad was doing before he died, he just went to see, Kennedy. He wanted a national database for drug interaction. In other words, people drug shop in America, they go here and because, and it's really funny because drug interaction is what actually killed my dad.
Mm,
And he was fighting for that, for people
wow.
not to be able to take. And he went to see Teddy Kennedy before Teddy Kennedy got cancer, and they wouldn't help it. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want a national database that would tell you if two kinds of drugs you were taking. Now, I'm sure they have it now, but back then they did not want that.
Yeah. Drugs are very dangerous, folks. I think many people are starting to figure that out. The pharmaceutical industry is rampant with corruption,
Yes.
and there's very little oversight. The FDA and the CDC do very little to ensure the safety of drugs. The information that they use to ensure the safety of drugs is the information the drug companies give them. And you can see how easily how easy it is to manipulate. And I go way into this in my first book, Chris Beat Cancer. I mean, if you haven't read it, please do. I mean, there's multiple chapters dedicated to exposing how corrupt the medical, pharmaceutical, cancer systems are.
I know you
And
do. That's why I love the book so much. That's why I like your story so much, because you know, and you exposed it, which takes a lot of courage. But it's funny how they will viciously attack something natural for a small side effect. But take any drug from the doctor. There's a list of side effects 10 miles long. They just have two sets of rules: one for alternative or complementary medicine or natural medicine, and one for the drug companies.
well, the long-running joke in our community is my doctor said carrot juice has too much vitamin A, but chemo's fine.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and I drink so much cane juice, sometimes I'm orange. So I really don't care. I've been on that most of my life. I've tried all sorts of things that we don't want to go into here, all sorts of natural like remedies and like things that are normal, things that people would think are odd. I've tried it all. I've done the
Yeah.
Water Master Cleanse, the 7-day cleanse, the 21-day cleanse, coffee enemas. I've tried it all. I did all of that because it's important to keep an open mind about things. You might find something new that's going to help you. And
Yeah, you might find a benefit. And,
right.
I'm glad that you brought that up. And this is a good place to, I think to kind of button it up here is my philosophy when I was trying to get well was very simple. I wanted to overdose on nutrition. I wanted to supply my body with an abundance of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, all of these wonderful compounds in nature that it could use to repair, regenerate, detoxify, and heal. So that was sort of step one, was flooding my body with nutrition every single day, right? And creating that healing momentum. But then the second thing was evaluating additional therapies, right? Supplements,
Yeah.
herbs, therapies, whatever. And my criteria for that was very simple. Is there a potential benefit? And is there no risk of harm? And if X therapy met that criteria, then I was like, let's try it. Let's incorporate it. If I could find it and afford it, I would add it to the routine. And so I think that's a really good way. I still believe that's a good attitude to have, a good perspective to have. And you really don't know. I mean, most of us aren't scientists with science labs in our garages. We can't test our blood every day and see what effect every compound we ingest is having on our body. But if there's little to no risk of harm, then and you can find and afford what fill in the blank therapy, why not?
And that's a wonderful philosophy to have. That's probably why you're so healthy, and when you open yourself up to helping other people with using someone else's, what someone else has done, what someone else has discovered, not necessarily yours or my view, but someone when you're willing to try new things and keep an open mind, that's what a scientist actually is. That's what they're supposed to be. But they're not like that. They're very close-minded. My philosophy is quite simple. First, I will do no harm to anyone, and I hope no one does any harm to me. Second, I will continue the rest of my life to spread my father's story. It's a wonderful story of hope and healing and wellness and our obligation to look after ourselves, which is why I think we jive so much. Because when I read your book, I was like, my God, he reminds me of my father, but younger, of course, but the same ideals as my dad had, the same drive to help people no matter what the cost, the same like strength to attack the industries that you think aren't helping, right? It's easy to sit on the sidelines going, yeah, but it's harder to get right in there in the thick of it, which is what you are. And that's why I'm so happy to be on your show, Chris. And I wish you all the best. And thank you. I don't know if it's the end, but thank you for having me on. And please, to all your listeners, please do have an open mind. Please listen to what Chris says. Please try to change your life for the better. And please try Jason Winters' tea.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That is high praise. Your father and I definitely had a strong will to live.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it started, right? That we had a strong will to live, and then the determination and everything else that followed really came from that. And yeah, it's such an honor to be included in the same sentence as Jason Winters. So thank you again, Sir Raymond Winters.
Thank you, Chris.
I salute you and applaud you and celebrate you and your father's legacy. Again, this has been so much fun. This has been so great.
It has been fun. Thank you, my friend.
Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for watching. You've now reached the end of another interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with people you care about. Go to sirjasonwinters.com, download Killing Cancer, his book, read it, get yourself some Jason Winters tea, drink it, see how you feel. I think you'll love it. I love it. We've been drinking it for almost 20 years. And I'll see you on the next one.